we have a leadership role in this. Many countries look to us for this. And the reason why it is so important, I believe, that Huawei captures this market is very simply that they know they will be able to go round all these other countries who have lesser security than we do and say, well, you know, the British got a brilliant reputation, they've said it's okay, therefore, what are you worried about? Because you don't even begin to know half of what they know, so now we'll just sell our goods over there. And the eventual aim of this is to capture most of these networks. And when they've got these networks, as the Cybersecurity Centre peculiarly said, then we may be completely in hock to them because all the other companies will have fallen away, and then we're left with the invidious choice of not doing 6G because we can't risk it, but we don't have anybody else to go to. Now is the time to restore our faith in those companies, to give them a chance to compete and to produce the product, and they are less risky. If I accept, there are always risks, but they are far less risky than the high-risk vendors. I literally gave away last time. Okay.
Very great, my Lord. Would you agree there's a compelling urgency now? Because there are significant customers for this equipment who are looking to see what the government decides. If we fudge it today, but we do not have a very clear target date to end the involvement of high-risk vendors, they will be compelled by commercial imperatives to buy from the cheapest vendor, which is Huawei. So this is really urgent now to have a clear end date by which we will get to zero.
Well, I say to my right honourable friend, he's correct, and I will quote again what happened in the debate that we held in Westminster Hall, because this is a really significant final statement which was heard. And the Minister, quite rightly, by the way, and I think this is a very good starting point, said, and I quote, "And we will work to move towards no involvement of high-risk vendors." Now, I want to conclude, Madam Deputy Speaker, by simply saying, and allowing others to get into this, that there are therefore three things that I think need to happen today. I recognise fully, and I say to the Secretary of State, having done much the same kind of stuff as him, it's not easy, because I recognise this isn't, strictly speaking, the correct bill to try and force the whole change on it. I recognise that. But any port in a storm is my view, and this amendment is a boat in a different port. But maybe, if he wants, we can move to the correct port when he brings that bill through. So I need some absolute clarity from the Secretary of State, as my colleagues, I think, do. And number one, that we do plan, and it is the government's intention, to move to essentially rid ourselves of high-risk vendors from our system. And the point about that is that there needs as well to be a concept of timescale in this. So I want the government to recognise and to accept that we have to set ourselves the task to do this. And to do it, I accept, the government's already said they want to do it with their Five Eyes. That's a first start, because they haven't said that before, but we need to work with our real allies to get ourselves in the position where we can actually go on to rid ourselves of these high-risk vendors. I don't say that's not without difficulty, so I do say to the government they need to make that pledge very easily, very clearly, and they need to give it the timescale that they will have achieved this by and commence the process of winding out those high-risk vendors. And last of all, if they don't want us to try and create trouble on this bill, I simply say to them they must give an absolute Loctite commitment that the bill that is relevant to this returns before the summer break, categorically before, as early as possible, it could be in May, so that we can properly see these commitments, plus others, written into the face of the bill, so that we can understand it is the government's intention. But it is absolutely critical for me, and I will only make my mind up on this when I've heard the absolute words of the Secretary of State in this debate. We need to know that it is the government's intention to rid ourselves of high-risk vendors such as Huawei. It is the government's intention to do this within the bill that will come before us, and they will work now aggressively and at speed with our Five Eyes colleagues, inviting them in immediately to create, with all of us, a system that allows us to do that at the earliest opportunity and to commence the absolute beginnings of that retraction before the end of this Parliament. And I give way a little bit on these timescales, but I think I'm being fairly reasonable. It's not given to me normally to make any demands, and I'm not making demands. I'm simply urging my right honourable friend and his colleagues, and if anybody else from my government is watching this, you know, I genuinely understand the difficulties they're in. But please, please, they can stop lecturing us that there is no other provider. They can stop lecturing us that somehow this will kill broadband rollout. It does not. And most importantly of all, they will remind us that security of the realm is the #1 priority. That is why I move this amendment.
We will make America great again.